Welcome everybody to another episode of the Nerd Continuity, where we talk about design, development, and all other crazy sort of stuff that we find online. Today is the episode 23 of this wonderful podcast, and the main topic that I'm gonna pretty much talk about throughout all the different mini topics of this episode is about AI, machine learning, and VR, virtual reality. Before starting, as usual, I'm Alex, Alecad, Alessandro, whatever you want to call me. I'm your host and creator of this podcast, and if you want to write me a question, you can sign up on my forum at the address forum.alecad with 3D, so alecad.com. I know it's very confusing. Like every time I say it, everyone gets confused. They don't know how to write it, but it's forum.alecad.com. Sounds really weird, but that it is. And of course, if you want to support me, you want to support my channel, my YouTube channel, where I do free tutorials for designers and developers, you can become a Patreon, or you can check the support me page on my website, where you can find different ways and methods to support me. So let's start this wonderful episode talking about AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and virtual reality. I don't know if you noticed, but pretty much all the big companies are pointing towards that direction. I don't know, it's weird. I don't think it's weird, but pretty much every company, like I'm talking about the three major companies, like computing companies that are Google, Microsoft, and Apple. Of course, we should also include Amazon, but I don't feel like Amazon is like at the same level. Amazon is more of like type of cloud company, cloud computing company. Google, it's like, I don't know, they're so broad and they're pretty much everywhere. Google, Microsoft, and Apple are in everyday lives, in every object that we use, in every device that we use. There, some of them, like you can live without Amazon. If you don't use Amazon, if you don't use AWS, Amazon Web Services, if you don't buy anything there, e-commerce, if you don't have Alexa, you can live without Amazon. You won't interact with Amazon. It's totally fine. But if you have a phone, nowadays, if you have an IoT device, even a fridge that is connected to the internet, probably you're connected or to Google or to Apple or to Microsoft for whatever reason. So these are the three main companies, and every time they do a conference, every time they do an announcement, it looks like they're all copying each other. They're all doing the same things. They're all moving towards the same direction. And the direction that I'm seeing recently is towards artificial intelligence, machine learning, and virtual reality. Up until a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, everything was moving towards social media and gathering user information and hooking users to use the products released by these companies. So we had, of course, Google pushing a lot, Google+. Do you remember how many times over and over during the conference, the Google I.O. of a couple of years ago, everything was mostly focused on the social aspect of Google+, the social aspects and updates of YouTube, the social aspect and updates of the Google Play Music and all this kind of stuff. Same things for Apple. Apple tried with, what was that? iTunes Ping? It was a social network based on music to do that. And then Microsoft tried to do the same with its own social network that I don't even remember how it's called. That's insane because it was really recent, but it was a huge failure, of course. No one used it and it just crashed it. Everyone was trying to compete against Facebook, that is kind of the giant of social network. Now it looks like no one is, I don't know, giving a crap anymore about social. We understood that kind of like social networks are really finicky things, are like a thing of the moment, and every 3 months there's a new thing. Before there's Snapchat, then Snapchat became like the gigantic thing, like the new kids in town that everyone loves, and then Instagram trying to buy Snapchat, or like Facebook tried to buy Snapchat, but Snapchat didn't sell, so Basically, Instagram, it's copying every single feature of Snapchat. Snapchat is collapsing. Then Twitter was the best. Now it's going down. Now everyone is moving through to Mastodon. It's a sort of decentralized version of Twitter. Facebook, it's still there. It's like pretty much everyone's on Facebook. Google Plus looks like it's dying since the first day it was announced, and all other social networks around there are just like kind of stupid. Every once a week there's a new video on YouTube that said YouTube is dead, everyone should leave. So I don't know, social network is a huge mess. So all the big companies are switching, are changing their attitude or changing their interest from social networks to other things. They realize that the world is moved by developers. And what developers do, pretty much they use cloud computing, and they use all these really heavy technology and information and computing type of machines and all this kind of stuff to build more and more complex things. Before it was just like app developers and let's build Flappy Birds. Now it's using AI to improve the experience of the user, using machine learning to try to anticipate the user action and try to give him already what he wants before he even tries to do something. So everything is moving towards that thing. And Amazon was always the leader in cloud computing with AWS. Now Google is trying to catch up with the Google Cloud Platform, but it's still kind of expensive. And Microsoft is trying to catch up with the OneDrive and then its own cloud computing services, Microsoft Azure, or how you want to pronounce it, like Azure, whatever, never used it. And then Apple is increasing the space in iCloud, and it's offering a bunch of new backup systems and all this kind of stuff. But pretty much all the announcements of the WWDC, of the Google I/O conference, and I'm sure also the Microsoft Build conference, were focused on artificial intelligence. So now pretty much everyone is releasing on our phones or our computers a sort of like AI assistant like Cortana or Siri or Google Now, how do you want to call it? And everyone is trying to do exactly the same. And everyone is trying to build an artificial intelligence through machine learning. And this is kind of confusing sometimes. And this is something that I'm currently experiencing in my work, on my daily work. We are trying in my company to build a sort of machine learning type of mechanism to help the user, to guide the user through the experience of other users. And that could be kind of confusing, but that's how machine learning works. So basically it's a sort of collection of previous experiences that will build the consciousness, will build the database, the package of that specific machine in order for the machine to have some history. And based on the experiences of the history, based on the previous experiences that the machine recorded, it can interact in a more type of like humanly way with the user, because it had like previous experiences that are pretty much like 90% of the time are the same of other users. They're like, we are not unique. We do pretty much the same things. So if a user or like 10,000 users do the same thing, and the computer, the machine records those 10,000 interactions and learns, oh, pretty much everyone does this pattern and asks these questions and wants this result. If the 10,001 user arrives and asks the same first question, the machine will probably guess correctly the rest of the sentence, or will guess correctly the proper response that a user wants. And that's also that's a really simplistic way of describing machine learning. Of course, it's really way more complicated, and especially artificial intelligence is way more complicated than machine learning. But the base ground, it's always the same: recording as many experiences as possible, recording as many data as possible in order to build an automated system based on previous experiences. So that's pretty much it. And that's what everyone is trying to do. Google is getting there faster than everyone else. Like the Google Assistant is pretty good. It's like kind of like superior to Cortana and Siri. Cortana and Siri had other aspects. They're better, stuff like that. But now everyone wants to put a gigantic microphone inside our home, inside our phone, inside our computer, just to keep listening to what we do and keep learning and keep saving data about ourselves. And that's it. It's not really a rant, it's not really a news. This is just like a consideration, considering that all these big companies are pointing, all of them are pointing towards the same goal, to the same direction. It's kind of weird. Like, where's the innovation? Every time there's someone that tries to do something, the entire technology world follows that something, and let's do it. Let's do exactly the same. Let's try to beat them. Let's try to make it better. And then the attention shifts to another topic, another argument. Like next time is gonna be, I don't know, nanotechnology, and everyone is gonna shift towards nanotechnology because I don't see the real innovation here. I don't see hey, this is something new that no one did before and we're trying to do it. And then another company said, oh, they're doing that thing. Cool. Let's try to do something else that it's better than that thing. Let's not just copycat exactly what we're doing and just change the name and make it crappier. I don't know. It's kind of weird. Like, it's getting repetitive. I think that's the point of this topic. Like, technology announcements are getting repetitive. Everyone is getting pumped about a new conference, about a new announcement, about a new reveal or something, but it's getting really repetitive and I don't see innovation anymore, or I see like a really small amount of innovation. It's just like, yeah, let's do everything's the same but slightly better. Let's not try to do something more. And this leads me also to another thing, like specifically towards Apple. If you remember, a couple of months ago, I started my journey to switch to Linux, and I built my custom HTPC. I installed Linux. I'm starting to use it more and more every day. Coding on Linux is fantastic. Like, for a developer, you should switch to Linux. It's really terrific. It's really good. And it's the only crappy thing about Linux is like availability of professional software. So especially from a design point of view, that's why I'm trying to build my own design software, like UI design. Hopefully we're gonna see an improvement from that front, but it's been like 20 years and no one has ever improved GIMP as much as Photoshop. So I don't hold my breath for that thing. So I decided to code it by myself. We'll see how it goes. But anyway, switching to Linux is more of a decision for first for my wallet, because I cannot every 2 years buy a new machine, because unfortunately that 2 years is currently the lifespan of a high-end spec computer that you cannot upgrade. I'm talking about a laptop. I'm talking about a desktop computer that you cannot upgrade, like an iMac or a Mac Mini or a small HTPC that it's hard to upgrade. I'm a web developer that works remotely pretty much, and I need a laptop. I need a really powerful laptop, and the standard, unfortunately, is getting a MacBook Pro, and the MacBook Pros nowadays are really below average. Like, the only thing that drives me towards Apple is the operating system, because macOS is really stable, runs smoothly also with my older machines. They're of course just Apple machines, and I can run all my professional softwares there. I run Sketch, that is only for Apple. I run Affinity Designer, that's amazing. macOS has built-in Apache. I can install Laravel Valet that can create all my development environments. Everything that I want it's just a really easy operating system. It's not customizable, it's not hackable, it's not open, it's so close. It's just a stupid closed environment that unfortunately it's what I need. When I work, I just need to open my laptop and start working. I don't have to worry on how to install a new graphics card driver or the audio jack doesn't work anymore, so I have to reboot the audio card or install new drivers, or oh, there's a new version of the operating system. If I install it, most likely everything that I have on it is not gonna work. That's what Linux does, unfortunately. Most of the time. Recently it's getting better, but most of the time that's it. So that's the thing. I've been always driven towards Apple because it's reliable. And I don't know, I know it's not a good excuse, but it's reliable and I don't have to worry that my machine won't work. The problem is that now there's no more innovation anymore. Like before, every time there was a new version of an Apple computer, an Apple machine, we were getting a huge improvement in performances, a huge improvement in design. Do you remember how many times the Macbook Pro design was changed? Before it was like the white or black plastic thing, then it arrived the aluminum chassis, then the unibody chassis, then they improved a lot the chiclets, like the keyboard chiclets, they improved the trackpad, massively improved the trackpad, and then they stopped. Now they're removing batteries, they're removing buttons in order to put like the stupid touch bar, and they're removing ports. Like we just have the MacBook Pros now have just like 4 USB Type-C ports. Like who the hell uses those yet? It's like too early. That's the thing, like the lack of innovation in these areas, it's mind-blowing. And then Apple during its latest WWDC 2017 releases this iMac Pro that is in my opinion, is just a gigantic middle finger to the pro level users that were waiting for a huge upgrade to a pro machine from Apple. I mean, it's a great machine, absolutely. It has a 5K display, it looks really sleek, has like all the super cool ventilation of Apple engineering, that it's amazing, it's solid, it's reliable, has the latest processor inside, a really huge computing power, and you can select up to 128 gigs of RAM. That's amazing. Before there was a limit to 64 or 32 gigs of RAM. That was kind of stupid. The problem is that it's a pro machine that costs $5,000 and everything is soldered. So the RAM is soldered, the hard drive is soldered. You cannot replace, you cannot upgrade anything. So as I said earlier, the current lifespan of a piece of technology like a computer is 2 years. After 2 years, that iMac Pro, I cannot do anything else other than throw it away and buy the new version. And that's so stupid. So why the hell do I have to do that? That's insane. That's why, like, of course Apple is doing it, because then you're forced to buy it and it's going to get more money, they're going to get more reach and all these kind of stupid things. But it's not good for a pro user. It's not like a pro user will not accept to buy an iMac Pro if he knows that in a year, a couple of years, if he wants to upgrade something, he cannot. The same thing as the Mac Pro. The Mac Pro was kind of a failure and Apple admitted that as well. And now they're trying to, all these rumors and leaks are saying like, oh, the Mac Pro is going to be so modular, so upgradable. I don't believe that. I think it's going to be just an upgraded design to have better graphic cards and better specs, but it's always going to be a huge block that you cannot open and touch it. Because that's the way it is right now. So upgradability and full control on your machine is only achievable if you build a PC for yourself, or if you go to System 76, but we're going to talk about System 76 in a bit. So building your own computer, it's a great thing because you can save a lot of money. Like that iMac Pro that costs $5,000, you can build it for less than $3,000 and you can have the same specs, and that's just $5,000 is just stupid, so whatever. Anyway, you're not gonna have the fancy chassis aluminum, who cares? So the solution is like building your own custom PC, and that's a great experience because you will learn a lot. Like you will learn how a machine works, how to fix it, how to care about a machine. You will own that machine because you build it for yourself. You can pick all your parts and it's gonna be amazing. The problem is the operating system, because macOS, it's an amazing operating system for the stability and the fact that you don't have to touch it is just like for dumb people. I admit I'm dumb when I don't want to do anything. I just want an operating system that I turn on the computer, 5 seconds is up, and I can work. I don't have to worry about fixing anything that suddenly stopped working. That's the thing about Mac OS. And Linux is improving slowly, and there are more and more desktop environments, more and more distro for Linux that are moving towards the kind of direction of, okay, let's build a distro for consumers. Let's build distros for average users, not heavy developers that know how to tinker with the source code that can do whatever they want. You have the choice, but there are also other options, and I like those options. The thing is still like the lack of professional software, but I mean, I started my journey of moving towards Linux, and I really hope that I will succeed. We'll see. The plan is that I recently bought a new iMac. I refurbished iMac like recently, a couple of years ago. I bought a refurbished iMac, and if you have to buy an Apple product, always buy a refurbished because you save a lot of money and all the specs are maxed out, so just go with that. I have this iMac, and I think it's gonna last for another couple of years. After that, I'm not planning to buy another Apple product. I'm gonna just go full Linux, so we'll see how it goes. But the thing is that still the mobility and the easy of use of a laptop is really great, and I really like the design and the lightweight type of laptops from Apple. But System 76 is introducing something new. They just released the Galago Pro, that it's a new 13 inches high DPI full aluminum body laptop that can compete with a 13 inches MacBook Pro. Can totally compete it. Has also like a gigabit Ethernet port that is amazing. It's super lightweight. There are some cons to that type of laptop because like the trackpad is not the best, and there's the bezel. It's pretty big. There are some complaints about the stereo speakers. There are at the bottom, are really small. They're not that great, but as a first step in the right direction, it's amazing. It's like this is the first time that a hardware company is releasing a professional level laptop that doesn't look like a piece of plastic grabbed from 1995. Something like I don't know why, but all the Linux laptops, excluding Dell, that the Dell XPS, it's amazing, but there are also some weird issues with that. But Dell and System 76 are kind of like the leaders from this point of view, creating a consumer laptop that looks good and looks professional, looks like pro. It's kind of like looks premium. It's not a huge piece of plastic that weighs 1,000 tons and is not portable even if it's a laptop. So that's a good direction where they're going. I'm not gonna buy the current one. I'm waiting for like next year, in a couple of years, where they're gonna improve the design and they're gonna release maybe the next version. Probably is gonna be really good because they're gonna learn a lot from this first version. And I hope they're gonna improve the trackpad, because I think that the Apple trackpad, the MacBook Pro trackpad, is one of the best trackpads ever. And I don't really like using a mouse when I use a laptop. It's kind of distracting. I don't wanna remove my hands from the keyboard, so that's the thing. There are other alternatives, like you could potentially buy a Chromebook, but it's still a cheap piece of plastic, and they don't cost much, but because it's a cheap piece of plastic. The other really sleek product is the Surface Book, or the Microsoft Surface. But if you install Linux on that, you're gonna have 1,000 different problems of like incompatibility with driver hardwares and all this kind of stuff. Instead, System 76 releases the laptop package with all the Linux goodness, and you know that it will work out of the box with Linux because they tested everything. They built it for it. Like they put all the hardware and software and drivers like specifically for Linux, so you can be sure. But I think I got a little bit off the rail. Like the original topic was AI, machine learning, and VR, but that's the thing. Anyway, System 76, it's a good choice if you wanna switch from Apple. You don't wanna use Microsoft, and you're thinking to switch to Linux, System 76 is the way to go. To go back to the original topic, AI, machine learning, and VR, VR is okay. I mean, I don't care about VR, honestly. I don't really understand VR. I don't know, it's weird. Like, who can afford VR? Like, it's so expensive right now, and you need a space, you need a proper space, you need a computer that can sustain VR. And if you want to put your helmet and just play a game, you need a gigantic room in order to not destroy anything, and you need to carry your computer on your shoulders. Did you see that backpack computer to play VR games? That's stupid. Or you need a gigantic cable from the helmet connected to the computer. I don't really care. Like, it's too much. It's for sure, like, the future is gonna be there. Future is gonna be augmented reality, and the entire room is gonna be a game room. But it's not, for me, it's not interesting. It's more of a kid's dream, and it's okay. I'm not saying it's worthless. I'm saying just I'm not interested in VR. Everyone's pointing there as well, but I'm not interested in that. So it's totally okay. The thing is that AI and machine learning are spreading all around the board, and it's going also on the web. It's going also on our stuff, and it's going also on WordPress, of course. And today I want to talk to you about a free plugin available for WordPress that it's called Watson Finds. So Watson, just to go back a little bit, Watson is the IBM system for cognitive computing, and it's been around for a bit now, has been developed a lot, has a huge database, and what Watson does basically analyzes the text, the content of a web page, and returns emotions, like what a user, what a person will experience by reading that content. And that's amazing. And this company called Unfold WordPress Theme created this plugin called Watson Finds that it's completely free. They're releasing a premium version that is not available yet, but for now it's completely free. You can install it through the official repository of WordPress. And what this plugin does basically applies a small button on your text editor inside the WordPress administration area on your WYSIWYG. If you click on it after you wrote your entire content, Watson Finds will analyze the content that you wrote and will return statistics based on emotion. So we'll tell you, okay, if a person it will read this content, he will experience 34% of joy, 42% of sadness, 10% of anger, and 1% of fear, or just 5% of disgust. And it's amazing. It's really good, especially if you are really concerned of consistency, like consistency of the content and consistency of your message. Or if you're a content manager, if you're a project manager or content editor for a specific client, that the client wants just happy, quirky, and funny posts, you will have the data to confirm that what you wrote, it's actually what the user will experience. This has been always a huge problem on the internet, especially on forums or arguments or chats and topics like that. You will never know what is the actual emotional status of who's writing or who's reading, because I can write you a joke, but you don't know if I'm telling you this joke in a way of offending you, or just in a way to have fun with you, or just to be cool or be friendly. You don't know, because it's just written. It's not like talking. You cannot hear the pace, you cannot hear the tone of the voice, and that's what Watson is trying to do. Watson Finds. Watson Finds will analyze your content and return what the actual user emotionally will experience. So it's kind of great. I really suggest you to give it a try, because it's kind of impressive. It's kind of scary how it can detect and return proper data based on your content. But it's really interesting if you're a content editor or content creator and you want to maintain consistency of all your posts, or you want to post that, or you want an article that triggers some specific emotions to the user, now you know what type of emotions will return, and that's pretty good. So go to watsonfinds.com, and just to specify, they didn't pay me to do this ad. They just asked me, do you want to review this thing? I checked it. I ran it on my WordPress, and it was fantastic. It was really cool. And so I decided to just give it a shout out. It's not a paid advertising. It's just completely free, and the plugin is free. So just go to watsonfinds.com and just check it out. It's pretty good. We're almost at the end of this episode 23 of the Nerd Continuity. Before concluding and starting like the usual round of most interesting questions that I received from the forum and from my blog and from my YouTube channel and from my social medias, pretty much everywhere, I want to just tell you again that if you want, you can sign up on the forum.alecad.com, or you can become a Patreon by going to patreon.com/alecad. You have different pledges. You can pledge from $1 up to $50 in order to have different bonus or different rewards or whatever Patreon calls this thing. But let me know, especially if you're a student that is having a really tough exam or graduation, or you're a professional that is terrifying of the next client meeting because you weren't able to complete that really hard task of by coding something from scratch, and you're in a terrible mood and you don't know what to do. You can access the $50 tier, where you can have a full month of private tutoring with unique sign up to my private Slack channel. So you can talk to me pretty much every day. We can have a couple of hours video chat tutoring where we can solve your problem. So if you need it, it's up there. There are only 3 seats available. So just take a look at patreon.com/alecad with 3D as usual, alecad, and let me know what you think. And to conclude this episode, there's only one question that I didn't answer, or actually I gave a pretty short answer, but I want to elaborate a little bit more during this episode of the Nerd Continuity, about a user that asked if it's actually really necessary to learn the basic before start coding something. Especially he was referring to the basic of PHP, HTML, and JavaScript before coding a WordPress theme. The user was asking why I cannot just follow the WordPress tutorials, learn about WordPress, and just code it, because the basics are boring. This is a really common issue. This is really, pretty much everyone hits this wall in the road of learning how to code. And I know the basics are boring, but the basics are really necessary. And unfortunately, that happened to me when I was really young and I decided to start coding. The first thing that I wanted to do, I want to create an RPG, like an online playing game based by chat. I want to code my own blog. I want to code my own chat. I want to code everything. I want to code my own forum. I was just going nuts. And I did that. I started looking online, only tutorials actually online. It's a big word, because online 13 years ago was like a wasteland of nothingness. So I started reading books on how to build forums, or how to use specific snippets of code to build some small chats, or accessing the source code of other websites and trying to copy. It was terrible, but I started building stuff, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. I know how to build this. I know how to build that. But then I was getting hit by tasks, by issues that I didn't know how to solve it, because I didn't know the basics. Because yes, I knew how to build a chat, but I didn't really understand how that chat works, why I was using those variables, why I was using those functions in that way, what's a private method, what's a public or a static method, what's the difference between a variable and an array and a scope and a closure, all this kind of stuff that are super boring to learn, but are really necessary. So the quick answer is just, you need to learn the basic. Suck it up. I know it's boring, but you need to learn the basic. They're gonna be so helpful. They're gonna help you to solidify your experience, and your learning process will be way smoother. Because I don't know, I know there are thousands of different coding languages, but pretty much the logic of a coding language is the same. If you learn the proper basic architecture of PHP or Scala or Go, then all the other backend languages will look similar. Because you know the basic of a specific backend language, all the other one will come way more naturally by knowing the basics. And the same things for like JavaScript. If you know all the basics of vanilla JavaScript, like regular, standard, plain JavaScript, no framework, every time you will use a framework, it's going to come to you more naturally. It's going to be way easier for you to use a framework if you know the basics of the language that framework is based on. And that's just a fact. Unfortunately, there are not like shortcuts, there are not tricks or tips that you can use. It's just like study the basic, learn every day and suck it up. Like, it's gonna be boring sometimes, you're gonna hate yourself, you're gonna think like, this is useless, I'm not learning anything, but you actually are, because it will come down the line. You have no idea how many times after many years of coding, I still go back to the basic documentation of PHP to say, hey, this thing is, I can do actually this super complicated thing with a really basic and standard built-in method of PHP without coding something stupid, crazy, complicated. There exists something from the basic methods that I can use to speed up my process. So basics are super important. Please follow the basics. That's it. So it's pretty much it for today's episode of the Nerd Continuity. If you liked it, please give it a like or subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you're listening to this podcast on whatever podcast application, iTunes or whatever app you're using, please rate it, like give it a rate, a positive rate if you can, or a negative if you don't like it. Just let me know, write a comment, write me a message, sign up to the forum, check my videos, become a Patreon, follow me on social media, and do whatever you want anyway. Even if I tell you what to do, you're totally free to do whatever you want. The important thing, you just have to have fun, and as usual, happy coding. Even if it doesn't make sense for this podcast. But anyway, I talk to you in the next